whether you're 8 or 80, the reduction of stress and anxiety just comes from that outdoor setting. Those feelings of cognitive development that's happening, you're able to be more creative and problem solve, and those decision-making skills.
Fire, earth, wind, water. This is the Elemental Educator. And now your host, Tyler Comeau.
Hi, alchemists, and welcome back to another episode of Elemental Educator. I'm your host, Tyler, and if you're joining us for the first time, thank you so very much for tuning in, and welcome to a place where we redefine leadership and challenge the status quo. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Elemental Educator on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast from, and check out our website, elementaleducator.com. Get ready to let the alchemy of education ignite your passion for learning. Amy has been serving the ECE space in Wyoming for many years and plays an important role in building bridges across the state. She's an expert in early childhood learning with specializations in social emotional learning, outdoor learning, and early literacy. She has over 22 years of combined experience in child development and early childhood education. With expertise in leadership development, strategic planning, and early literacy, Amy holds degrees in elementary education with an endorsement in early childhood education, child development, business, and law. Amy holds certifications in trauma-informed care, protective factors certified trainer, CDA professional, development specialist, LETRS, ECMHEs, infant toddler mental health endorsements, child psychology certification, CBT and advanced CBT certification, women's leadership certification, human rights certification, PMP certifications, social media law certification, certificate in content area instruction, special education, autism education certification, certificate of higher education in early childhood. The list is going on and on. Amy, welcome to the Elemental Educator Podcast. It is an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Tyler. I'm excited to be here.
And I can't wait to unpack it. It is your first virtual podcast recording, and we're going to make it special for you today. And I want to start by just unpacking, how did you get to where you are now?
Well, I have spent many years in a classroom. I spent most of my education background in the Head Start space and then as a kindergarten teacher. And so most of my time has been spent in a classroom, and then I moved into the administration side.
So what sparked your interest to get into the classroom in the first place?
I always wanted to be a teacher. I know from even just being in like second and third grade as a child, I would make worksheets for my sister to do while we were at home. I knew I wanted to be a teacher, so heading off to college, I knew exactly where I was going.
Amy, it's so funny because everybody I interview and the person just before you whose episode's coming out, they just said they had no clue that they wanted to be one. And I find that we get two ends of the spectrum. It's either the people that knew and absolutely loved and set their heart out for it, people who had never even crossed their mind until they were making that decision and was like, yeah, I'll try education, and then loved it. So it's always great to hear the story where it came from. I'm sure it's rooted in something very passionate, and Earth represents those core values, those passions, and that root in your beliefs. So Amy, how do your core values influence your approach to early childhood education?
I would say when it comes to core values, it has to do with community and that sense of community where children should be prioritized in their families and in the family structure as well. So I think my core values come down to community and that sense of it, along with empathy, that care and empathy that's shown for children and families when you're able to really make that large scale impact.
I love that. And you're so right on saying that, community is about kids feeling valued and cared for. What's the first step that people working, and this isn't just with kids, but anybody can take to make sure that somebody that they're working with or for is feeling cared for and valued?
I would just say by giving them your full attention. So whether it be a parent in the home or a caregiver in the home, and putting down that device and giving that person your full entire attention that says, I'm here to listen to you. I'm here to really fully understand what you're saying to me right now, and I'm not distracted.
I love that. We had Dr. Greg Wells come and talk to our school division about this, and hopefully his episode on Elemental Educators coming out shortly after yours. But he sent a very powerful message of when you're talking to somebody, make a point of showing them that you're putting your device away, to show that you're establishing that I am here for you. And I've really brought that into my practice the last little bit of when people come to have a conversation with me, I shut down my computer or I log it out and I turn off the screens and I make a point of putting a phone away. He went to the extremes of have a fake brick painted as an electronic device and pretend to put this brick away just to show people that you care and you're there for them and how much they matter to you. So absolutely. I love that tip. It's a great tip to start with. And kind of with this, outdoor learning is at the heart of much of your work. So getting away from the tech a bit, how have you grounded your approach to outdoor learning in foundational principles? And how do these principles guide the development of programs like Get Wild Wyoming?
I think when you're talking about principles for early childhood education, you're talking about delivering and embracing diversity at the same time. So outdoor learning is usually understood to mean like educational activities and so on and so forth. And so it's like, when it comes specifically to how that grounded my approach to outdoor learning, it just comes down to, hey, let's do what's best for children. Let's do what's best for society right now as a whole. And that is to put down our devices, reconnect with nature, get outside, get our bodies moving. And I think it just comes down to those basic principles of get outside, get some fresh air, those sort of things.
So 3 questions kind of jump at me right away, and I'll take them one at a time for you first here. What is your definition of outdoor learning?
Outdoor learning to me is anything based in a setting that's outside of your traditional classroom. And so whether it be a picnic table that you have out back or sitting outside on the porch, if you're doing homeschooling, a school could go outside into the parking lot, anything like that, where you're taking whatever lesson you are currently working on and just doing it in that outdoor setting.
All right. So you brought up a 4th question for me that I'm going to jump to right away. Why is that advantageous in your opinion?
Just because it's the ability to self-regulate while you're in that setting. And so you're not just sitting there, with your peers watching in front of you at the teacher. You're sitting here, but you're also feeling the breeze against your face and you're hearing the wind whip through the trees behind you or, the birds up above, anything like that, so that you are able to finally go, oh, I'm at a place of peace and my mind is ready to learn.
Now, I've had, not just teachers, not just educators and principals, but, business people and CEOs and executives and managers say, let's just go outside and we're going to have this meeting outside or conversation outside. And it usually goes one of 2 ways. It can go really well, or it completely flops and it's total chaos out there. What's that fine line between, doing this with some intention? So you're not just going outside for the sake of going outside. You're going outside with the intention of this is for us to be better.
I think it's about setting the stage for doing it. And so when you're going outside, are you recognizing those background noises? Are you specifically looking up at the clouds to see what's going on up in the clouds? It's setting the stage for it so people are expecting something exciting. So
speaking of those background noises, what role does that natural surrounding play in helping young children develop strong literacy skills?
Well, I'll tell you what, natural setting is self-soothing. And so what I mean by that is that children are able to just go into that natural setting and everything feels right because you are at one with nature and even the wind coming across their faces or whatever it may be, just in that natural setting really assists them in being able to self-regulate, self-moderate as they're learning any of their lessons that they may be approaching. It could be something very simple, or it could be something very complicated. Whatever it is, that natural setting is the perfect place to create that environment.
And self-regulation usually comes, it's weird, but it comes with a negative context where people associate it with, oh, you have to self-regulate, shame on you. And everybody self-regulates, and it's just a way that we get through things, and we find peace in the things we're doing to bring us joy in the things that we're doing. Now, I know in the world of education, I asked you a literacy-based question because literacy is really important in And how do you integrate that literacy into an outdoor learning environment? Do you have some specific examples?
I do. We actually just wrapped up a session on called Writing Wednesdays, where everybody would take a variety of different writing tools and take them into the outdoor setting. So whether it be sidewalk chalk or, paint for the sidewalks that's, obviously safe, but just any kind of writing you can do outside. So journaling. So if you're journaling about what you saw, and even in the early childhood world, we're talking journaling like draw the bird that you saw or draw a picture of the clouds. But that writing aspect is strongly connected to literacy.
Yeah, we, one of the first things I did was taught an outdoor education class. It wasn't one of the first, it was really my second job, but I tell people it was kind of my first job. And we would go up into the mountains and we would all bring journals with us. And, we would record our UTM locations and we'd do all of like the safety protocols and all of the coordinates. But then we would do a 2-minute sit in silence and then a reflection on our 5 senses. And then that 2 minutes became 3, became 4, became 5. And then we had people sitting for 15 minutes by the end of the year, just in the quietness. And in my own reflection on that, those were great days, but it was all of the days in between those that were so much better because people were just finding that sense of calm, that sense of relaxation. But you brought it up a little bit, the wind, and that's one of my next elements here is the air element, which does symbolize that adversity. And it could be something as you're outside trying to be peaceful, and all of a sudden there's a road rage incident happening across the street, or there's a train coming through your town, or maybe it starts to rain on you, which some people think that is very blissful. But when we're faced with some of these challenges in outdoor learning initiatives, how have you worked through them to ensure the success of these programs?
Like I said, it continues. I continue to say self-regulation over and over again. But when things come up, we're able to adapt and self-regulate. So whether we're doing a literacy lesson outside today, and oh my goodness, there's construction going on behind us, or whatever it may be. Okay, learning how to tune that out and then tuning into what you need to be tuning into. It's turning off this side of the brain, turning on that side of the brain, and really focusing in on what's going on and not that surrounding noise at that moment. So that's a skill that we need as we get older. We've all been in rooms where everybody's talking at the same time, and it's so easy to get overwhelmed in those particular settings. So learning that skill of being able to tune something out and tune something else in.
And I'm assuming that skill takes time to develop.
Very much so. And so, although it's not ideal to have a construction thing going on behind you, it's good because it's learning a skill that will benefit you in the future.
Right. So it's almost better to go outside in noisy times for the sake of still just being outside.
Correct. I would rather go outside by the construction team if that's what it takes to get people moving outside every single day. That's fine because they'll learn to just tune it out. I mean, if you think about a pre-K classroom in the first place, it's not a quiet setting by any means. And so if there's construction noise going on or, an airplane flying over or whatever, that's fine. We'll just roll with it.
Yeah. If you've got a quiet pre-K class, send me an email, tyler@elementaleducator.com, and let me know what you're doing. Because you've either found the absolute secret to getting 100% engagement all the time, or these kids are terrified of you, and I need to know what you're doing to instill that level of fear. Now, with that, talking fear, many educators, they are hesitant to shift to something as simple as we're going to go outside for this. How have you helped teachers overcome that concern and embrace the outdoor learning as a key component?
Well, I'll tell you what, I always say it's not bad weather, it's bad clothing. And so usually that's the biggest thing that we're up against in the state of Wyoming is the wind chills or the snow coming down, something like that. But it's about dressing appropriately, knowing what those safety factors are for wind chill. Just because it's really, really cold outside or there's a wind chill, so on and so forth, doesn't mean you can't go outside. And even if it's to go outside and catch snowflakes on your tongue, just go outside and yell and scream, whatever it is. It usually the weather is our biggest battle. But like I said, it's dressing appropriately and then changing that mindset of the teachers so that the kids are then excited to go outside in the cold as well.
Absolutely. If the teachers are excited, the kids will reflect and emulate the teachers' energy levels. when I taught hunter's education for a little bit, they had a section on just proper clothing. And what jumped out to me is just a reminder to people that cotton kills and you shouldn't be wearing it in layers when you're outside in the cold because it holds onto your sweat and does a lot of bad things to you when you're trying to survive in the cold weather. But that being said, that simple suggestion of, think about what you're wearing, that's a small change. So with that, we start to bring in the water element, which is the ability to implement change. So Amy, can you walk us through the process of implementing Get Wild Wyoming and share how outdoor learning positively impacted early childhood education in your state?
Well, I can tell you that I came back from some site visits and I was really frustrated by the classroom setting and the limited time that kiddos were getting outside. And so I went to the drawing board and said, okay, what do we need to do to get these kids moving, get them going outside? And it's not like I'm this brilliant genius that came up with the idea of, hey, take your kids outside. I think it was more the idea that, hey, this is an initiative that's being rolled out from the Department of Education. We are saying, take your kids outside more often than what you're taking them now. And so I do credit the success to the rollout. We did a couple of classrooms that were piloting the project. We had 5 to start. Within the week, it grew to 10 because people were like, hey, we really want to join this. And that number even quickly grew to over 150 classrooms, all the way from early Head Start, which is babies, all the way up to entire charter schools, all the way up through 8th grade. And
Wow.
so I think it really just took off because the kids are really enjoying it, but so are the teachers because they're able to go outside and get some fresh air. So they're better teachers for it as well.
And what you're saying resonates very passionately with me as well in the school that I'm principal of right now. We just started a land-based agriculture program because we're in a very rural farm setting. And, at the day of us recording this, our students were in our first week of kids being back in school. And on their third day, they did their first field trip, which was to go and do a geocaching photo essay where they walked around our little hamlet with their little SLR cameras that our school had, and they took pictures of abiotic and biotic things and gas cycles in action. And it was the point of emphasis with intention to get them moving and get them outside and get them active. And I mean, sure, there's little hiccups along the way, and we spoke about most of them already. I wore the wrong footwear, or I dressed in not in the right amount of clothes, or maybe not enough clothes for what I was expecting. I should have brought a water bottle today, and you unpack all of that. But at the end of it, but how was the experience? Every single one was positive. And it's so incredible to hear just the power of being outside where, we could have did the same thing in the classroom and asked them to find these pictures online, and we probably would have had a lot more disengagement in our rooms. Now, with that, you also mentioned that, you're getting this buy-in, you're getting this collective sense of this is something good. Now, how do you ensure, though, that this is creating that lasting change that's happening when you walk away from that school still?
I think the biggest way that we're doing that is we are having each of the teachers journal their behaviors in the classroom and how they've been directly impacted by outdoor learning. And so whether it be a child who is really struggling with getting along with his peers or her peers and how that's working. And so we're keeping this really long journal that has no names attached to it, obviously, but everybody has access to it. And so they're able to go in and see the other success stories. Then we're also talking to teachers at the end of the school year and interviewing them and saying, what was the end result of going outside more? What was the end result of being a part of Get Wild Wyoming? And we're recording that. And then if somebody really starts to get down on, this is just too hard, I can't keep up with this, they can go in and they can watch a couple of those videos of those kids in those settings, in those moments, and they're energized again. Like, okay, yes, it's really cold outside, but look how much fun the kids are having.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. This is one of the strategies you shared to just ensuring the sustainability of it. Are there other strategies that you and Get Wild Wyoming organization are doing to continue the longevity of the program?
We're making it as simple as possible for educators. I don't want to put any more pressure, any more work on the teachers that are already in the classrooms, overwhelmed with the amount of things they need to get done during the day. So It's very simple. It's take whatever you were going to do and do it in an outdoor setting. And so obviously we're wanting explicit instruction while you're out there, but take whatever you were going to do it in that outdoor setting. And that way it's really not this large scale inconvenience to do so.
Absolutely. Now, along the way in implementing this, have you been met with resistance from teachers or schools or administrators?
I have not really. Like I said, the biggest pushback we get is I can't do it during the winter months because it's too
Okay.
cold outside and I'm miserable. And, I don't want to get out there. My hands are chilly and I'm shivering and everything else because we live in a really cold state. And so the large scale pushback has been due to the weather. And so it's okay. Well, just because you can't go outside for that long doesn't mean you can't go outside for a little while and dress appropriately. Teach the children to dress appropriately during that time as well. So that's been the largest pushback.
Now, does Wyoming have an indoor recess policy for kids where if it's below a certain temperature, they're not going outside?
We do. And it mostly has to do with wind chill, though, because our wind chill factor gets to be a problem.
So how do you find the balance between the pushback you might get on kids aren't even allowed to go outside for recess? Why are we taking them outside?
Exactly. So with that being said, there is a whole wind chill chart that I've sent out to everybody that has a list of, okay, how long you can go outside at what temperatures. And I have that for wind chill, the heat index, everything else like that. And so, yes, there's a generalized policy on it, but you can still go outside during that time and enjoy just a couple of minutes. Go outside, scream, run, go, whatever you have to do, and then come back inside really quickly before that wind chill gets to you.
Okay, so the idea behind it is you shouldn't be going outside for 15 minutes, but going outside for 2 is probably safe and okay.
Correct.
Okay,
And like I said, we have very explicit instructions from our licensors that say exactly what they can and can't do, and that falls perfectly in line with that wind chill chart that everybody's been given.
Love that. Now, doing something like this, it's a big change, and whenever big changes happen in education, it's always a risk, which means we start to play with the fire element, and this is the element that embodies risk in decision-making processes. So, Amy, what have been some of the riskiest decisions you've made in pushing this implementation of this outdoor learning program out?
I would say it's more so asking teachers to do something more. I don't ever want to be in a position where I've asked them to do more, but it is risky to say, hey, I would really like you to add this to your day. Well, that means I have to pack up my classroom and all these things. And so there's a risky element to that. And some people aren't going to be happy about having to take whatever you were already doing and take it to that outdoor setting. But just like outdoor learning, that risky play outweighs any of that other stuff that's going into it. And so it's just about planning appropriately. But I think that's the biggest risk factor is just, hey, it's more work on them. And I fully understand that, but I assure you the reward is well worth it.
Now, it's so apparent that you're such a strong advocate for, getting wild Wyoming. And with that, there's probably a need to balance this push of innovation with practical realities and working constraints in educational systems. How are you helping teachers manage that balance?
Managing it in the aspect that we're not asking to put more load on them. It's just providing materials that are easily accessible in an outdoor setting. So providing those resources. I provided each of them a wagon so they could carry their supplies with them and not hindering what they're already doing. And so it's just making it as easy as possible. Hey, here's some curriculums that fall perfectly in line with it. Here's, some different things you can take out into that outdoor setting that are more robust, that are not going to get faded because of the sun or so on and so forth. So it's about providing those resources that have longevity to them.
Do I have to pay duties on that to get a wagon to come across the border to Alberta, Canada? I'm not sure. I think I might have to. So that's not a bad idea to bring one out there and kick it off. I want to role play with you here for a sec. I'm going to take on the role of that nervous teacher, and I want you to walk me through how to encourage me to take that risk. So, Amy, I think I hear what you're saying, that going outside is beneficial for the kids. I think I do a pretty good job in the classroom already. It feels so different. What if it goes wrong?
Well, my first response would be that there has not been any proof that there's been more accidents in that outdoor setting than in a traditional classroom setting. Then, not to mention the mental health component where, we're reducing stress and anxiety, increasing those feelings of self-esteem, so on and so forth. And then outdoor learning can improve that cardiovascular health. So we are doing a prevention of obesity by design. And then outdoor learning can help students develop their social relationships and their collaboration skills and all these things that we're going to teach them without actually having to teach them, that are just going to fall perfectly in line. So actually, it's going to take stuff off of your plate and not add stuff to your plate.
Can't I just put away the tech in my room and open the blinds and windows and call it a day?
Well, when you figure out a way to do that where you can hear the birds actually singing inside and the wind hitting your face and be able to look up at the clouds, I may be able to argue that point with you. But that natural setting is the best place to be. Never mind that vitamin D touching your skin and really just getting soaked up in those environments that sometimes that's not easily accessible.
You know, Amy, this sounds great, but I also teach math and English and science and social and band and art and phys ed all the time. I'm a generalist here. I have no idea when to start, when to plan it, where to go. What should I be doing first?
Whatever you are going to do during your traditional science lesson, math lesson, literacy lesson, take that lesson and do it outside. So whether it be you're measuring and today we're going to measure distance for a math lesson, or it's a literacy lesson and we're going to do some journaling, or a band lesson outside and we're bringing those sticks and we're going to play the drums on the ground. Whatever it may be, you can do it in that outdoor setting instead.
I love that. I love the transitions you just made. I'm going to come out of role play character there. Now that was awesome. And you know, you had the answers there for people, which is great to hear. Amy, this has kind of been answered along the way, but what are you hoping people action in their lives tomorrow from your message?
The biggest thing is just understanding that there is that direct connection to mental health benefits from outdoor learning, where, whether you're 8 or 80, the reduction of stress and anxiety just comes from that outdoor setting. Those feelings of cognitive development that's happening, you're able to be more creative and problem solve, and those decision-making skills, all those things are just naturally happening. And that happens for everybody, whether it be the littles that are outside just soaking up the sun, having their snack outside, to the adults that are going for a walk after dinner. All those things can be assisted by going outside.
I just read an article about the benefits of just taking 15 minutes to be outside with somebody close to you, or that you can have that conversation with, and the impact it has on not just your day, but it was impacting your risk of cardiovascular disease and quality of life down the road. And it was such a incredible read to just hear the power of simply being outside. So I have to ask, Amy, where you're pushing this awesome initiative out there, what does your future look like going forward?
It would be my goal that, all classrooms across the state have some aspect of outdoor learning, an outdoor learning component involved in them. I'm going to keep up the fights and just continue supporting the classrooms that are currently doing it and recruiting more and more, just until everybody understands the real advantages to going outside, and that serotonin and the dopamine and all those chemicals that are released during that physical activity. And so until everybody really fully starts to embrace that, I'm going to keep up the good fight.
Yeah. 30 minutes is a pretty good maximum. And after about 30 minutes, you need that break and you need that release. And when you think about the times of your recesses and the times of your lunches, they're a lot more than just 30 minutes apart. And so you have to, with intention, create those spaces to have 30-minute breaks within there. And those breaks could be things outside. And if you do it right, it doesn't need to be a break. You can stay on task, you can stay on curriculum, you can get those things done. So Amy, I have to ask, I know in Wyoming, people have an easy way to get a hold of you, but if somebody outside of state or outside of country is wanting to pursue this, how can they get in touch with you to learn a little bit more?
You can find me on LinkedIn, and I have shared that with you. So I don't know if you'll be able to share that in the message afterwards. Or you can email me. My email is Amy Reyes, Reyes, @wyo.gov. and I'm happy to support in any way I can.
Absolutely. And everything that we just shared here will be in the description, show notes, all of that for listeners to come and be a part of. Well, Alchemists, I'm your host, Tyler. This is the Elemental Educator Podcast. Thank you for tuning in and listening. And Amy, thank you so much for taking time out of your night to sit down and have a great conversation about something truly powerful.
Thank you so much, Tyler. Get wild.
You've been listening to the Elemental Educator. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, find us on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Elemental Educator.